Hello guys and welcome back. I am sitting here with my Wemars 6220. Now it's called a 6220, but it's never been, and it probably never will be, anything more than 58 cc's, I think. These Chinese clone saw companies, they really like to, I don't know, exaggerate. And this was supposed to be 62 cc's, and if my memory serves correctly, it's 58, which is extremely common. I've yet to meet one of these chainsaws that was actually the cc's that they claimed them to be. 52 cc saws, you do the measurements and it comes out 50, 49, something like that. 48 cc saws, you do the measurements, it comes out 46, 46 cc's and stuff. It's funny, but anywho, what I want to talk about with this video very specifically is why this is the OG of Chinese chainsaws. It's not because it's a Wemars or anything like that. It's because this clone design, to my knowledge, okay, I got to throw that out there. I got to get some disclaimer out there because I know there are people out there that know more than me. All right? But to my knowledge, this is the original gangsta of the Chinese clone chainsaws. And what I mean by that is they were cloning the Zenoah G5200. I believe that's it right there. I think that's the name. But it's a Zenoah chainsaw, 50cc saw, 52cc saws, depends. You can get it in multiple different cc's, but it was their 50cc class chainsaw that the Chinese companies, manufacturers, decided for whatever reason, we're going to replicate this chainsaw. Well, let's talk about, for one, the why, okay? Did they choose to clone the Zenoah because it was far superior to any other 50cc chainsaw? I don't think so. And now at this point, I've got to make it clear, this is just going to be speculation. I don't have any hard facts. All right, but I am pretty knowledgeable on this, pretty knowledgeable on the subject, and I can only tell you what I think is going on. And the reason that they chose to clone the Zenoah was probably very simple. That's what they had access to. Okay? So you got to realize in the Asian market, very similar to the European market, they like their small saws. Unlike here in the United States, I mean, don't get me wrong, we like our small saws too. However, it is extremely common in the Asian market and the European market that the only saws that they have is 50 cc's and lower. Now that could be a matter of, that they very rarely run into big trees. And I think that's probably end of story right there. A lot of the American in me wants to say, or it could be because they're not very tall people, but I mean, that's probably not the case. But anyways, and that's probably just stupid to even say. But over there, that Zenoah saw is very clearly a professional grade chainsaw. Pro grade chainsaw, no ands, ifs, buts about it. That is what the pros ran in its day, in their day. And so they were just taking and replicating what their market had, which was a really good 50cc professional chainsaw. And this is it. All right. So this is no less of a professional grade chainsaw replicant than a Stihl MS 660 replicant. Okay. So all of these Zenoa saws were just truly professional saws, and that's something, of course, you probably are getting, that I'm wanting to hammer that in. Were they any better than, say, a Stihl MS260? Probably not. You know, I've never ran a real Zenoa saw in this configuration, right? But they probably weren't any better than a MS260. They probably weren't any better than a Husqvarna 346 XP. As a matter of fact, I think most of them were open port setups, and so they were less high strung and more about just getting the job done. And so it would probably be more appropriate to compare them to a Husqvarna 350 or 353. Even that, though, they're not; those aren't exactly open port. But my point is simple. They chose to clone the Zenoa saw because that's what their market had, and that's what they could probably get their hands on. And when I was just recently over there in Japan, I found the original Zenoa clone saw on the shelf. And, you know, it wasn't a clone, the original Zenoa G5200, and it's on the shelf and it's sitting there. And the math, I worked it out. It was about $1,300. No, $800 to purchase one of those Zenoa saws. So they took what was sitting on the shelves and selling for, you know, inflation, you know, adjusting for inflation, $800 on the shelf, and they started offering it for $100. And that's why this was so successful. Are they as good? No, they're not as good as the original. However, that's why they're so successful. I mean, look at a Ford Mustang. Ford Mustangs, you know, still a pretty affordable car, but, you know, you buy one with a V8 and everything, I don't know, what is it, $35,000, $40,000? Imagine if China stepped up and literally created a clone Ford Mustang, and they sold that thing for $10,000. You think Mustangs sell a lot now? Holy shit, everybody and their uncle would be going out and buying a cloned Ford Mustang. And it's because it gave people the opportunity, this stuff right here, to buy a saw that they normally would never buy. So that's why they're so successful. It's not because they're good quality or anything like that, but I gotta say, it ain't bad. I like it a lot. So, but yeah, if you're wondering why the Chinese clones got so much traction and how they're just selling like crazy, well, it's because, you know, how many people are going to go out and buy a $1,000 chainsaw? Not many. Not many at all. But how many people are going to go out and buy that exact same chainsaw, just not quite as good, lower quality, but it's okay because they're not a pro and using it all the time anyways, for $300? A lot of people. And we see that, you know, we see it. They've gotten so much better over the years. They still have their little finicky issues. Absolutely. Like one of them right off the top of the head, do not over tighten these bar bolts. Don't do it. You'll strip them out. And the Stihls especially are really bad about it. Like the 660 clones. Yeah, that's one of the things that should be on your list. As soon as you get one, take those bar studs out, put new ones in, and OEM bar studs and bar nuts. You know, it really helps out a lot. So anyways, that's just it. I just want to talk a little bit about what made these things really take off, and they're still gaining traction. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. Like Walt said, if you watch these videos, you know who Walt is. A Fleet Command. He said in one of his recent videos where he was talking about the future of gasoline chainsaws, and he put it into words really nicely. Basically, paraphrasing, he says, you can either deny the change and be disappointed, or you can embrace the change and learn to enjoy what we have. Because things are changing, and a lot of people like to throw out the nevers. This will never happen. That'll never happen. Never, 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 never. One of the big ones that I like to bring to everyone's attention is back in the 60s and 50s and 60s, but mainly 60s. Everybody that was a fan of motorcycles were saying, these Japanese motorcycles are junk. Their frames are made out of stamped tin. You know, they're junk. They will never replace BSA, Triumph, Norton, Manx. They will never replace our good motorcycles, specifically British motorcycles, actually. You know, never. These Japanese motorcycles are junk. Fast forward just a few short years later, who comes out with the best motorcycle ever? Honda. The CB750 is renowned as the absolute game changer in the world of motorcycles. They sold like over 1 million of those things, I think, over the next 10 years. But anyways, and it just launched the Japanese manufacturers, all 4 of the big ones, into the stratosphere. Whenever Honda did that, then Kawasaki came out with their version the next year of 1,000, roughly. I think they came out with the 900, but they're inline 4-cylinder. I mean, things like disc brakes were unheard of on a factory motorcycle, and Honda comes out and it's got disc brakes. It's like, whoa, that was blow your mind revolutionary and stuff. So the only thing that I'm saying is quit thinking that Chinese stuff is always going to be junk, because probably here shortly, within the next 5 years, they're really going to kick it up a notch, is my guess. And I don't like it either. I don't. Be real about that. I wish American manufacturing would come back. However, that ended in the early 80s. Right? Poland held on to dear life, and Homelite held on for a little while as well. But sorry, the end happened whenever changes our government made in allowing companies to freely invest and recuperate gains from products being made overseas. Right? That happened in the very early 80s, and it was already, everything was ending in the 70s, you know, because we had the Swedish stuff coming in and the German stuff really coming in. And sorry, you guys like your Macs and Polands and partners and everything, and it's just like they couldn't even compete. They just couldn't even compete with the shit that the Germans and the Swedes were bringing over here. The old partners, the Jonsereds, the Husqvarnas, the Stihl were just so much better than the McCullochs, the Homelites, the Pioneers, the Polands, all of it. They just couldn't hold a candle. And what's going to take out the European chainsaws now isn't going to be quality as much as it's going to be just a change in the guard, really. Chinese can make them so much cheaper. So, and that's it, you know. And plus, everything's going to get switched over to electric and all blah, 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 blah. And now, anyways, we're rambling for no reason. but the original gangsta of the clone world is one of these. They make them all different kind of CC ranges. I think as low as 46 and as high as a fantasy derived 62 cc's. I don't know, maybe there's some actual 62 cc's out there. This one isn't one of them. But there you have it. I guess I don't know what else to say on the subject, so I'll end this video. Later.